district, where do these expiring covenants really live? And I'm sure, Mr. Campos has done an amazing job.
Good afternoon. Welcome to your Public Works and Gang Reduction Committee. I'm joined by my colleagues, Ms. Martinez, Ms. Rodriguez, and Mr. Rue. And Mr. Espinosa, are there any general public comment cards? There are, okay. As you're gathering those, unless there is an objection, colleagues, I'd like to take items 6 and 7 on consent. Yeah. You want to say something positive about 6 right now?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I just wanted to say thank you so much for co-authoring item number 6. It is much needed, and I am very supportive and look back for the report back on that.
Great. Thank you, and happy to do it. So without objection, items 6, well, I guess do we have cards on items 6 and 7? No, not yet. No, okay. We do not. So then items 6 and 7 are approved on consent. 6 and 7. Number 8 was going to be on consent, but there is, Mr. Huizar has asked for an amendment, which we'll go through at the time. So, that being said, why don't we move then, do we have any multiple public comment cards? Yes. Oh, I didn't see them. How could I miss these? So we have one, Mr. Herman, you've got cards on most items. If you could give him 2 minutes for all of his items. Mr. Herman? Mr. Herman?
I heard you, sir. I heard you. Loud and clear. 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
Bureau of Engineering report, CD4, fuck it. Report for item number 6, Jose Huizar, sidewalks, Willits versus Los Angeles, fuck you too, Huizar. Item number 5, Krikorian, and the Jew boy and Ms. Martinez relative to assessing brewery charges. Well, we don't need necessity and convenience for any more brewers because we have too many hit and runs, and this is the capital of the world for hit and runs. Fuck you too. Then I go to item number 4, Los Angeles Department of Transportation. Fuck the arts and fuck entertainment and fuck the police. Parks and rivers committees don't work. Then we go to item, I'm sorry, I forgot. Police fuck cadets. And then I go to item number 1. City Administrator, I'll report to the fucking innovation of performance, commission, innovation, and now my general public comment.
No, sorry. General public comments at the end. Sit down.
So I can keep going. I got 56 seconds, sir. Thank you. So now that I have the floor, Mr. Chair, funding for personal department of virtual reality officer is me. I'm virtually here. Why? Because I want to talk about the Jews, how they destroyed the relative innovation and performance of commissions. Why do I say that? Because the Jews own the city, and the Jews should pay Mr. Spindler and Mr. Hunt to get them the fuck out of here so they can go to work. Instead, they come here to perform relative to the innovations that you see firsthand. 42 U.S.C. 1983, California Constitution, and our Bill of Rights. All you have to do is provide us a blank check, 2. I'll sign them and hand them off to the 2 gentlemen, Mr. Wayne Sprinter for the record and Mr. Michael Hunt, the Red Chief.
Great, thank you. Next, I believe we have Mr. Red Chief has a number of items. What, you pass? Okay, Mr. Red Chief passes on his items. And then the third multiple comment card is from Yvonne Audrey.
Yes, again, I just think more money should be invested back into the community, not in the incrimination, of course, of black people, people of color, and at-risk children who are simply victims of the recidivism. I think that if more money is invested into the private school or public schools and after-school programs, not in the construction or proliferation of jails and police departments, because you are in the developmental process of a police state. Yesterday, we protested the drones, and you're moving forward on that, despite the overwhelming consensus of the community, which was no drones, LA. So you're running this city with complete disregard to the democracy. You're running this, which is a constitutional violation. Okay, you're running the city as a plutocracy and an oligarchy, which is a constitutional violation. We have shown up, right, we're making a democracy work. We have the right to protest, and you've disregarded time after time our grievances and our directive, because you work for us, not just the police department, not just Mayor Garcetti, right? Not just the principalities, the rich Jews, that hire the Mexican maintenance men to enter my room, leaving calling cards of urine and men's ejaculation, right? Lining up 5 and 10, trying to rape and service me, right? To put me in the street. The point is that the money has got to be used for the development of after-school programs, preventing crime, okay, not in the anticipation of it, not in the incrimination of our youth, okay, because children that are active, that are not medicated, then feel that they can develop themselves academically, artistically, intellectually, and especially black children at risk, Hispanic children as well, not being labeled, not being medicated and put in the trash, but, given that opportunity to lift themselves up by their bootstraps per this Constitution, which has never been realized. So you are fully liable and in violation.
Thank you.
We bring that to your attention every day.
Thank you.
And you're so bought off, you just
Thank
ignore
you.
it.
Thank
How
you.
do you live with yourself?
Great, thank you. So unless there is an objection, we will take items 6 and 7 on consent and item 9 to be continued. Seeing no objection, we'll move on now to item number 1. All multiple card items have been satisfied, and we move to item number 1. Mr. Espinosa, would you please read number 1 into the record?
Item number 1 is a report from the City Administrative Officer relative to the Innovation and Performance Commission Innovation Funding for the Personnel Department Virtual Reality Officer's Experience.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Bianca Swan, Project Coordinator with the Innovation and Performance Commission. The Innovation and Performance Commission has recommended funding of $50,000 for the Personnel Department Virtual Reality Officer Experience Innovation Fund idea. The goal of this idea is to integrate virtual reality content into the LAPD's recruiting process in an effort to increase the number of LAPD candidates. I'm joined by members of Personnel Department who will go in further detail and available to answer any questions as well.
Good afternoon, council members. I'm Aram Kuyumjin. I'm an assistant general manager with the Personnel Department, and I oversee public safety hiring. I'm joined today by Raylan Napper, who's the chief of our public safety division, as well as by Captain Alan Hamilton, who's the commanding officer of LAPD's Recruitment and Employment Division. Police recruitment is a joint effort between the LAPD and personnel, and we work in concert in order to hire the most qualified candidates for our city's police force. Last year, we developed a brand new campaign for this purpose entitled Choose LAPD, and it consists of 3 elements or 3 themes called Choose Your Challenge, Choose Your Purpose, Choose Your Future, which are malleable enough to highlight the various facets of the LAPD, its service-oriented purpose, as well as the rewarding career that it can prove to various candidates. This year, we would like to expand on that campaign.
Excuse me. Mr. Spindler, please stop interrupting the meeting. Please stop interrupting. I'm going to ask you to leave if you keep interrupting. I'm sorry. Continue.
Thank you.
One more outburst and you're out of here. Please escort Mr. Herman out. Please escort Mr. Herman out. Mr. Herman, get out of my meeting. Don't come back. Don't come back. Out. Sorry for the interruption.
No worries. So this year we are looking to
Let the record reflect Mr. Herman is still interrupting the meeting.
This year, we're looking to expand that campaign by introducing a virtual reality component. This will be done on a pilot basis, and it can be very much the precursor to incorporating this technology in a various number of ways throughout the city. And so I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Napper to describe the initiative and the impact it can have on police hiring and other functions that the city serves.
Good afternoon. All right, so, and I just want to quickly distinguish virtual reality officer experience from the virtual mentor that you'll hear about later. Virtual reality is for people who aren't applicants yet. So before they've entered, we want to try to use it to get them to join the process. Virtual mentor is for candidates already in the process. So why virtual reality? We want to take the job to people, and virtual reality is a medium that helps educate people on this really dynamic career and show all the various aspects of the job and different assignments they could have and what the job is really about, maybe more so than what they've seen on just TV. So we've done some early storyboarding, and the 2 to 3 minute 360-degree film will align with our campaign. The interactive version, someone can choose whether they go with challenge, purpose, or future. The challenge will highlight the different specialized units of LAPD. The purpose will highlight actually serving someone, being the officer that just helped someone in the community and what that reward is like. And then future will show graduating from the academy, future promotional pinnings, choosing your assignment when you leave the station, things like that. So this immersive experience, we feel, could motivate candidates, could motivate people to join the process and then also stay engaged. Motivated candidates are the most successful in the process. We already know that when a candidate goes to the candidate advancement program and works out with LAPD officers, they stay engaged in the process. When candidates go on a ride-along, they stay engaged in the process and are usually the ones appointed. So this is our way to motivate and engage folks before they're even in the process, because we give them the experience of what it's like to be an LAPD officer. So a little bit of what it'll look like in use. We're going to have this 360-degree film. We can put it online. It'll run linearly, but with the mouse, people can move around and look at what they choose. Then we'll also have Google Cardboards, which we can brand with LAPD. These can be giveaways, and people can use that. If anyone's never seen one, you put the smartphone in there and can experience through the app you've downloaded. So the interactive version uses these kinds of headsets and will run off an app that people download on the phone. And again, they can choose where they begin in the story and also other choices down the line. There's a great technology called heat mapping, which actually tracks what people are looking at. So we can capture that data of what's interested in, and then module 2 or whatever down the road, tweak the content. And then the primary use that we envision and sort of a secondary purpose here is equipping recruiters with headsets, smartphones, that they can go out to events. And this is the hook that draws people to the table. I would love to say that the LAPD name alone draws people, but it just doesn't draw in the numbers we need today. So this will set us apart from our competition, and I'm going to have Captain Hamilton talk firsthand about what the competition is like out there. But this helps us present a more tech-savvy image for the LAPD, which is attractive to the generations we're recruiting now. And then, obviously, people can download the app from anywhere else, so we can push it out through all kinds of social media channels, and people don't have to have visited the site or been at an event to use the technology and experience what it is. And on that note, I'll just say this helps us take one more step in scaling this process. Right now, recruiters can only go to so many events. They can only talk to a finite amount of people. This helps us reach more people across the nation, expand beyond the 5-county area that we hit hard, and as we make other parts of the test process accessible remotely, this is just one more piece that completes the picture and can draw more candidates in. And with that, I'll turn it over to Captain Hamilton.
Captain, welcome.
Thank you. It's nice to see some of you again. I'm going to be kind of brief because I think Ms. Snapper and Mr. Kuyamjian covered it pretty good. But in terms of the competition, I'll briefly paint kind of the picture. And there is no doubt that LAPD still carries a cachet in terms of recruiting for law enforcement agencies. Recently, we basically sponsored a seminar for hiring over at LACC for Asian Pacific Islanders, and the competition is fierce. So Customs and Border Patrol is being very aggressive right now nationwide. They've opened up offices on military bases for provisional hiring. They're giving job offers 1 year out. So when you leave the Marines on Friday, you come to work for CBP on Monday. So where this really gives us the hook is we're aiming for the millennial and Generation Z recruits that are out there looking for technology, looking for establishing a relationship and becoming involved and engaged. But from a technological standpoint, if we can get them over to our booth, get them over to our table, and show that we are the premier agency when it comes to implementing technology and recruitment in other areas, that's going to be the hook where we bring them over to our side, where we're just one cut above what some of the other people, maybe in green and tan or some of our other local competition, are out there doing. So we see it as a very vital component in terms of mentoring, and in terms of recruiting, and in terms of getting out there and kind of hawking our wares and showing that we're going to be the technological leaders in recruitment and law enforcement. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll take questions now. Are you any further? Okay, please. So first off, you know, I love the idea that we're trying to be on the cutting edge in all sorts of ways in this city. We've really advanced a lot in the last 5 years on multiple areas. A couple of questions, and I know my colleagues do as well. The report states that personnel is in the process of awarding the contract. So where would the funding come from if the item was not approved?
The Personnel Department is prepared to absorb that cost if funding isn't granted, just because we believe in this product, in this project.
So you would absorb it anyway?
We would, but that means at the cost of something else. So, go ahead.
We've put up an RFP. It's a conditional one. So if the funding doesn't come through, we have not entered in any kind of contracting as of yet. So, but we have started dialogue simply because of how long contracting takes and how long it would take to prepare the modules. I think what Ms. Napper was referring to is that the amount we're asking for is $50,000, and the contracted amount is for an additional $17,000 or $18,000. We are prepared to absorb the difference.
Is LAPD absorbing any of the cost?
Usually the funding for recruitment is part of the personnel budget, so we'll be absorbing it for that reason.
Okay. It's a little I mean, I like this idea a lot. It's a little tricky in the sense that we're very clear that we want to make sure that the Innovation Fund does not supplant the regular budget. So we don't want to be in the situation where we're just funding items that should be funded through the budget process or that are typically absorbable costs. It's not just to fund every good idea, it's to try to find those innovative ideas that wouldn't make it through the regular process. So I have a little, I'm still going to recommend approving this, but I'll say it makes me a little uneasy.
Councilmember, the regular funds that we're given go to the daily tasks of getting the word out that LAPD is hiring. So that's our social media outreach, the paid advertising on social media, on streaming services. It equips the recruiters with whatever promotional materials they need to send out. It pays for the posters and the images that you saw, which were developed in-house, by the way, in order to make the dollars go as far as humanly possible. So this is innovative in the sense that this takes our recruitment efforts to a whole new level, which our regular funding would certainly not be sufficient for. The other thing is, as I said, this would be sort of a pilot program, and we would look to expand it to a way of either recruiting or advertising different aspects of the city experience, whether it's taking a tour of facilities we have for rental or expanding it to other job classifications.
And on the hardware side of thing, I notice a number of items, and I don't quite understand. One of the bigger ones has to do with data plans for phones being $2,400. Why does this need a data plan at all?
In order for the video to be accessible, the phones that will be used in the hardware that the recruiters will be carrying, they'll be able to utilize those phones in order to stream the virtual reality videos.
Isn't it normally, don't you download the...
Yeah, if the app, we could have the app and the videos downloaded onto the phone, and then we're not reliant on data. However, right now, recruiters have nothing but their personal cell phones out in the field. And when we moved to the discussion on CRM and virtual mentor, and where we're trying to get away from literally paper and pencil collection of contact information, this gives them that tool. So the technology already, it can serve two purposes. So yes, we could go without a data plan if necessary.
Yeah, I guess I understand that phones are good for recruitment, phones are good for, I'm assuming that we're buying, part of this is buying 10 phones. You don't really need that in the sense that you could use any phone that you have. In fact, you don't even need a new phone. You could use a phone that's 5 models old, download the software into it, and you could get you get a heck of a lot more than 10 of them for this price, and you could bring them around without. So I'm looking at the two costs of the phones and the data plans as, to me, it looks like it's padding the budget in order to get the things that you want for recruitment, which are good things, but really have nothing to do with the virtual reality.
We laid out all the elements that it takes to deliver virtual reality that we believe. However, the $50,000 funding is really going towards production. Those recurring costs, the purchasing of the equipment, the data plans, that would be absorbed by personnel department's other funds. So, but we want to give you the full picture. But I think that's a great idea. I don't know if we have plans to update phones for those who get phones already, but when we do, we could look at that.
You can even buy practically for free these days. Phones that are 3 models too old that would easily do this, where you could download it using Wi-Fi, and you could have a ton of them. Not have to buy fancy new phones, be able to, and not have to have any data plans, frankly. So I guess I don't really see the need for those two costs, but you're telling me that those aren't part of the costs that you're asking for. I don't know how we would know that given the report, but I guess you have $17,000 worth of other costs that anything we can find trouble with, you can assume is somebody else's for the moment. Okay. It's a good thing. Are there other examples of virtual reality being used in personnel recruitment that you guys know of anywhere else in the U.S.?
In some ways, yes. The Golden State Warriors used it to try to recruit a basketball player. The University of Michigan uses it to recruit future players. So in that sort of recruitment area, but not for employment purposes, and certainly not for police officers. So we would be really the first to do that.
Okay. And will this, if this is successful, is it going to help personnel to use this technology in other areas of recruitment besides LAPD?
Absolutely. I would think of hard-to-fill positions. We could promote that, or just general city recruitment, the various jobs, all the benefits, that sort of thing. So a lot of other uses.
Some other questions, but I'll move it to colleagues. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So who's developing the software for this? And I'm sure there's maintenance costs, so who's going to absorb those costs as well? And what's the timeline for the pilot?
So the same person, vendor that films the 360-degree film also develops the app. And
you have someone, there's someone in place already?
Well, we've gone out to bid and selected some. So we've seen various...
So you've already selected you've already awarded a contract?
No, we have not awarded a contract. So.
But the maintenance component to this is already
right.
in?
Any updates or anything like that,
As
yes.
part of the RFP, okay. And what's the timeline for the pilot?
Production, I think, could be done in 2 to 3 months. We have to coordinate a lot of shoots, but we'll be live.
By the beginning of the year? Or?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And how would you measure its effectiveness?
We definitely want to look at numbers applying to be a police officer. So converting more people to
And how many
applicants.
actually apply and get into the academy?
Right, right. And then some subsidiary things like how many people are downloading the app and using it, and that sort of, is it being used? So.
And what other, my final question is, what other projects is the Innovation Fund currently allocating money for this fiscal year? How many other projects are in the pipeline?
Currently, right now, these will be our first two from the current fiscal year.
For this fiscal year? Okay. No. That's it. Thank you. Great to see you.
Mr. Root, do you have a question?
You know, I just wanted to mention when I first read about it, I was a little skeptical, but at the same time, I know how difficult it is in recruitment. I love the out-of-the-box thinking. I like to see how it goes and hopefully increase the numbers, whatever we could do, because I know close to 47% of our workforce is going to be eligible for retirement by 2019, so that is just a very scary number. While we're going to help with LAPD and augment, try to get more cars out there, if we don't have the officers, there'll be empty cars. So I thank you for your out-of-the-box thinking.
Okay, one other question. A lot of times people say the millennials are interested in social justice, part of policing, and other different aspects of policing. Is the target for this, which is geared toward millennials, going to reflect some of those other values?
Absolutely, and that's part of the Choose Your Purpose arm of the campaign, where we really talk about the community and social justice nature of the job. So.
And once it's developed, are you going to be able to update it without additional funds? Once the base is put in there, is it going to be updatable?
It's updatable, but that will take more funding. So we will, if this goes well, we'll be looking to regularize this in the budget, where we could produce extra modules or add content.
Any additional questions? No? Okay, so without objection, I'm going to move this forward. I'm going to ask that you don't include, as far as the Innovation Fund, the data plans. It's not really appropriate for the Innovation Fund, but everything else, and you've got plenty in the budget. So without objection, so ordered. And we will move to item number 2.
Item number 2 is also a report from the City Administrative Officer relative to the Innovation and Performance Commission, Innovation Fund funding for Personnel Department, improving public safety hiring with a virtual mentor project.
Before you go, we do have a public comment card on this item. So let me get that done first. Mr. Wayne from Encino, item 2. One minute.
So for the record, I submitted multiple cards under "Fuck you, Herman." You didn't call all the cards. You violated the Brown Act. So...
Please stick to the item.
Okay. Well, for the record, so all of you understand, the chair's wife is an African-American woman. So
Mr. Chair, the speaker is not speaking to the agenda item.
Well, the fact is he's not marrying a full-blooded Jew and having a proper family, a Jewish family. So...
You're not speaking to the item. You're done.
He has a virtual reality family.
You're done.
You have a virtual reality family, Bob.
Okay, he's continuing to be there. Please leave.
Making kids with the Goyim, huh?
Mr. Chair, the speaker has already been warned not to disrupt the meeting.
You are ejected from this meeting. Get out. Thank you. Let the record reflect. He's disrupted the meeting, did not stick to the item, and he is being removed. And
Mr. Chair, I'd let the record show you had already warned Mr. Spindle not to disrupt the meeting.
Yes. Okay. Ms. Swan, please come. Sorry about the...
Never a dull day. Sure. Are we good? Okay. Again, I'm Bianca Swan, Project Coordinator for the Innovation and Performance Commission. The Innovation and Performance Commission has recommended funding of $250,000 for the Improving Public Safety Hiring with a Virtual Mentor Innovation Fund idea. The goal of this idea is to provide a virtual mentor for LAPD applicants that would be used to keep candidates engaged throughout the hiring process. I'm joined by members of the Innovation Delivery Team, Personnel Department, and LAPD to go into further detail and answer any questions you might have.
Good morning, and thank you, Bianca, and thank you, members of the committee. My name is Amanda Daflos. I'm the director of the Innovation Delivery Team. Just to note that we typically work with departments, and so we've had the opportunity to be working with RM Kumjin and Captain Alan Hamilton, Raylan Napper, and then my colleague Carly, who's behind me. Over the last several months, we've been doing a whole host of research, and what you see presented to you is an application for a virtual mentor. We're also calling this a candidate portal. And the purpose of this, as you all know and has been mentioned before, the purpose is to help our applicants actually move through the hiring process in the city of Los Angeles using online tools. The process right now is very paper-based, and so if you're to be applying for a position with the police department, you'd be doing it predominantly on paper. So there's a fair bit of processing. There are at any given time about 7,000 people who are in the hiring process. So at any given time, personnel and the team here is working with 7,000 different people. We hire about 600 people a year. That is a big number, so much so that that's actually the size of several police departments combined just in terms of their workforce. So the number of people that we're processing really does call for some automation. And of course, I think to your point, Councilman, just around the millennial component, we're really interested in creating tools that will make the police department feel more relevant and provide candidates with the resources that they need to be successful in what is typically a 6-month to a 1-year process. So this virtual mentor is really built around the idea that candidates would have the support online to understand the process, to access resources, and to move their way through the entirety of the process over the course of the 6 to 12 months. So we have the group here, but I also recognize that we told you a little bit about it, so we wanted to take any questions that you have. But I'm also joined by RM and Captain Hamilton, who are just going to say a couple of quick words before we take any questions that you might have.
Please, thank you.
Good afternoon again. Aram Kuyumjin from the Personnel Department. So the virtual mentor, I just want to take a moment to explain what it is and how it will function. And unlike virtual reality, this is quite a different concept, despite the terminology. So virtual mentor will be an online candidate portal that will be customized and unique to each individual candidate. So with a sign-on, candidates will be able to have access to a dashboard that will not only tell them their position in the process, during the hiring process, the 7 distinct stages of the selection process, but it will act as a concierge to kind of virtually move them through the process, because we simply don't have the necessary human power to guide this many candidates through multiple steps of the hiring process on an individualized basis. So they'll be able to schedule appointments online. They will receive automated notifications and reminders. They will be given access to prep videos, and they will be furnished with success tips. So for instance, if Amanda were to be a candidate and her departmental interview were to be in 2 weeks, the system would recognize that and would send her a reminder saying, Amanda, you've got your departmental interview in 2 weeks. Here's a video that we recommend that you watch. And then there would be a subsequent notification if she failed to watch the video, perhaps a success tip like 90% of candidates who watch this video turn out to be successful during the interview process. So it will be this very personalized way of guiding candidates through the process in order to make sure that the most motivated ones are moved through the process as quickly as possible, that those who are struggling are given a little bit of encouragement and support. It will allow candidates to access the materials 24/7, not just during business hours, and it will give them content relevant to where they are in their particular hiring stage. And it will, again, sort of be a pilot for any kind of testing that involves a prolonged period of multiple parts. So this could easily be extended to firefighters or other complicated exams that the city administers.
Good afternoon again, and I'm not going to go through the competitive nature of the current recruiting atmosphere for law enforcement again. I think I hit on that pretty good. But, you know, we do have this thing called the Olympics coming up. So one thing we do, certainly not under my command, but maybe a couple of commands downstream. I want to make sure that we're using Virtual Mentor to refine our systems to make sure it's scalable. At the same time, we're kind of in a technological desert over in recruitment. We don't really have the technological tools to measure, to take advantage of, and to leverage, and to demonstrate our technological prowess for the city. So that's one of the main things that we're looking at, and certainly that outward-facing appearance is important to millennials and Generation Z as well. They're looking to engage in a place, certainly, but they're looking for that technology. They're looking for that, future-leaning company or organization that they're going to come into and be committed to. So that's very important. A lot of our competition's definitely going down the technological roadway. Many of my mentors spend too much time handling answering basic questions and addressing basic issues, where the virtual mentor interface will be able to address a lot of those questions, concerns of the candidates, and move them along. Right now, I've got 5 mentors, and they're handling those 7,000 candidates. So you can only imagine the touch points in order to keep that process moving, how complicated it can be, and how complex it can be very quickly. So, of course, I'm going to close with this. More time spent mentoring candidates, moving them along in the process, and making sure they're fully engaged and fully prepared will guarantee a better outcome and better retention downstream in the academy. Certainly one of Chief Beck's goals and one of our department goals, goal number 5 in terms of improving the workforce, we want to get more bang for our buck, and we think that Virtual Mentor is definitely going to be one of the things that helps prepare candidates better in the front to be more successful in the back.
Great. Thank you very much. We're happy to take any questions that you might have.
Thank you. A couple things, and which my colleagues. So, love the idea that we're trying to bring more mentorship in, and that's very positive. What makes me a little queasy on this one, and kind of like the other one, is it seems like we're paying for a portal, which should be customized, and I think in the real world, this wouldn't be really innovative. And there's not a business in the world that wouldn't have this kind of stuff already. But I get it. We're kind of behind the curve on that, and this is innovative in our respect. But maybe I'm mishearing it in that sense. I mean, 24/7 access, customizable, being able to respond. I mean, all these things are, 20 years old in terms of good websites and interactive portals. And so I don't like the idea that we're paying for a portal, because we shouldn't be. That should be part of the regular budget. I get it. It's more customized, and you're trying to not just have it interactive, but more tailored to the individual. But help me become a little more comfortable of why this is really a bigger step innovative-wise, because it doesn't feel that way when I read it and when I read what we're paying for.
Got it.
Although we need it. I mean, I can't imagine us not having this, and so I mean, I can't believe we don't have it already, I guess, is
Right.
part of my concern.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's to your point. I'll take a stab at answering that, and then I might invite a few others to comment. But I think, the way that we see this is it's absolutely something that the city should have. When you look around the country, which we've done, some cities have things that make it a little bit easier for police candidates. But here in LA, we would actually be one of the first to launch something like this, something that makes it very easy for candidates to understand and access resources. That's a really big part of it, is how might you become successful if you had access to something that explains the process, or it gives you a workout, or these kinds of things that are all really instrumental into the police hiring process. But we would be one of the first to do it nationwide. In terms of comparing us to the private sector, I think we would agree that we'd love to see the city have these kinds of tools, but unfortunately at the moment we do not. In terms of using the IPC budget, we really think that this could actually spark innovation in the city, so as to say that if we were to use this small investment, we really believe that if we do this and we do it well, it would spark and create an opportunity for our personnel colleagues to really use it widely in hiring throughout the city. So we've looked at it as sort of a part of the whole, and starting with this because it is so critical at this moment and really important when it comes to public safety hiring here in the city. We looked at this as an opportunity to start, but then again, if it's successful, a great way to actually scale. So I don't know if that addresses your question.
It helps. It helps. And then the current mentors, are they going to be involved? I'm assuming they'll be deeply involved in this since they know
Talked a little bit about that.
the key concerns
Councilman,
are.
do you
But
wanna-
I'll address that quickly, sir. Our mentors are going to be, they've already been involved in the process, and they're going to be very specific and attuned to how it's going to improve their ability to mentor not just the candidate that's very motivated, but also the good candidate that just doesn't know about the law enforcement realm. Those are the ones that we're concerned about. We want to make sure they get through the process, they have that understanding so that when they get to the gates of the academy, they're ready to go.
Ms. Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For me, one of the things that I can appreciate about this is what I think it reflects is part of the challenges we have in our hiring process overall. That we have an antiquated hiring system that is so slow that we are now developing these technological tools to help provide mentorship to keep people in the queue and interested in the process. So what I hope this actually does, and it's one of the reasons why I initiated the conversation by even administering and working with ITA and personnel to reflect on how we might automate even our testing process and making that more widely available using some of the technological tools that are currently available right now. It's not unique to the challenges we're just having with LAPD. It's reflective of the hiring process challenges we have citywide, given our 50% retirement cliff and a variety of hiring areas. My question is related to how we might, and while I can appreciate the need for LAPD, we have a significant amount of hiring to do just with our public works departments and information technology and all of these other areas, and how this might be available to them.
RM, did you want to take that?
This can easily be used as a pilot in order to build on, because it can be customizable to any department's needs. That's the beauty of the individualized aspect of it, because all the content will be developed specifically for the designated job classification. So if we identify something in public works or in any department where we have high need and we want to ease the process further, then we can develop specific content and allow those candidates access to their version of the portal.
So in your hiring process, is LAPD really the model of the lengthiest process in hiring, or are there any other departments that are equally of concern in terms of the need, in terms of the time it takes to hire staff?
LAPD is definitely the longest. Firefighters also take a long time, but that's because of the tremendous demand. So sometimes we have to go in specific pools of the ones that we can kind of draw from. So that's also that's a situation that has too much demand for very few positions.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, and I can appreciate the value of I think what this does to keep people interested in that queue when we do have such a highly competitive, particularly as it relates to law enforcement and all public safety positions. It is a very competitive process, and we want to engage people and keep them interested in becoming, if they're the best and the creme de la creme, we really want to keep them engaged in our process. However, to me, it just truly, really underscores what we really do need to be talking about in this conversation, and that is the reform and the use of technology in our hiring process, because that's really, to me, what this kind of really helps to
Our department is definitely headed in that direction with Anytime Anywhere testing, which is a model that we've been exploring and to a certain degree implementing. It is something that we are looking to utilize in the police hiring process and possibly put the very first portion of the exam, which is a new modification that we're developing online. So that's something that's coming. The one thing I want to make clear is not only will this tool allow candidates to remain engaged, but it will allow the most motivated candidates to go through the process faster. So instead of waiting for that prep session, instead of waiting for that particular appointment with a human, if they can have 24 access to a particular prep video that's specific to their next testing stage, then they can come in and do that the following week instead of being out 3 weeks or 4 weeks in that process. So it will help both the struggling candidates as well as the most motivated ones.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Ms. Martinez.
what I want to see is, I concur that there is the process at times is flawed, but I want to see a specific action to try to recruit in communities of color, because we have to do that. In law enforcement, I think LAPD has done a fairly good job, but we are missing the mark in the fire department. And an emphasis in hiring and recruiting more women. I cannot emphasize that enough. Both in our engineering department, our architects, our police officers, our firefighters, we definitely have to incentivize more women to apply. We have to incentivize how to motivate them and keep them engaged and make sure that we retain them. So that's what I'm looking for. I know there is, the hiring process is complicated at times. In some of our departments, surely there's a lot of background checks and so on and so forth. But we have to make it easier in order for people of color and communities of color in particular to want to work for the city of Los Angeles. And women have to find a place here. There is a place in each and of our departments in Los Angeles for women, and we need to emphasize that.
I might just say one thing, which is I think through this partnership, the innovation team and the police department and the personnel department, one of the things that we've been looking at is exactly that, the diversity hiring component. Certainly the personnel department, and I know Isaac brought some of the most recent marketing campaigns that have been done. So the city is really trying to actually market and reach out and be very directive in the way that they reach communities of color and women. But in this partnership, we've also been talking about other ways that we could do that. And so we would be really excited to come talk to you about some of the ideas that this group and others from the community have shared with us. And maybe there's a conversation, at least just to share with you some of both the research that has been done as well as the activities that are taking place to be more deliberate about that.
And we have to go to them.
Yeah.
We can't just take it for granted and think that everyone has access to technology. That's not necessarily the case in some households. So how do we go to these communities so that they can have access to the information the way everyone else does, and so that they can also be competitive and know what the process of applying is?
We definitely present. We've done a series of surveys to try to actually understand what is the best way to reach folks.
I'm happy to work
Is it
with you on that
electronic?
piece.
Is it being at a recruiting event? Captain Hamilton's team leads a whole series of recruiting events.
Okay, I just
we also
want
know
us to
that,
be cognizant of that.
Yeah, no, we
Okay,
really
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, and like I said, we're happy to come share with you sort of the outcomes of the research and the additional ideas.
Mr. Rue.
Yeah, churches. We've
Thank you,
had
Mr. Chairman.
church input.
Just wanted to. So, did this idea generate from the Innovation Task Force, or was it from the LAPD or Public Safety Department?
So I would just say that, and maybe you guys want to comment, but I would just say that, we've all been working together. The innovation team, we get assigned to different departments, if you will, on behalf of the city, and we get the chance to kind of partner. And so this is something that the personnel department and the LAPD department have been thinking about. And through all of our work together, we've now matured what you see in front of you, and as well as a proposal and a whole host of other things. So it's something that's been in the works, and I would say really well researched on behalf of both departments, and now this partnership.
Well, I just want to commend the innovation team for this one and the previous item for coming up with these out-of-the-box ideas. But at the same time, I concur with the chairman. I'm just shocked that these are some of the most basic stuff that we don't even have. But we got to start somewhere. So, I mean, it's just things where in this day and age, it's just so basic. I share the chairman's comments of, I can't believe we're spending money on something like this, but we need some base structure to actually grow and build on, and I wanted to expand to other departments, take into account minority communities, and lack of access to technology and all of that. So, and anything we can do to get more automated, get away from paper-based and go electronic, because at the end, all those paper documents, we have to convert it to electronic documents, and that takes money too.
It's a lot of work and a lot of time.
So while whatever we could do, I mean, even if this ends up not working, I'm sure there'll be a lot of lessons learned to figure out how we could implement, because obviously government, public sector is different than private sector. Mm-hmm. So we got to figure out how we could make it work in the long run. So, but I just want to thank you for this.
Thank you very much, and again, we appreciate your support across the board. We're happy to talk more about a lot of what we've learned, and anything from automation to the manual work that the city does, to things around diversity. So, would really look forward to that opportunity.
Well, we look forward to that. look forward to seeing the results of this new innovation and also more generally how we can get technology and update personnel to make things more efficient. So we thank you for that. So without objection, we're going to move, we're going to, please remove her from the chambers. Let the record respect Ms. Autry is disrupting the meeting. Please remove her from the meeting. Okay. We're going to go for record. We have 3 people removed from the meeting. We'll see how many more we can. We're on a roll. Okay. So, without objection, then the recommendation is going to be to approve the recommendations in the CAO report. Seeing no objection, it is so ordered. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Next item I think will be relatively quick. Mr. Espinosa, if you could read item 3 into the record.
Item number 3 is a report from the Innovation and Performance Commission relative to resizing the appointive membership of the commission to 9 members total.
And there are no public comment cards on this item? Is that correct? Great, thank you. This is fairly straightforward in terms of changing the number of people on the committee. Ms. Swan, if you want to say something, you're welcome to, but I'm happy to move it forward, so go ahead.
No, I don't really have any extra comment. I think it's pretty straightforward that the commission would benefit by a reduction and be able to actually be more productive with the reducing to 9 than at its current status at 15, which we have not had since I've been with the commission.
Okay. Colleagues, are there any questions on this? If not, I'm going to move that the committee adopt the IPC report and also request that the city attorney prepare and present an ordinance to implement the recommendations in the IPC report.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Without objection. I know chronologically number 4 is next, but we're going to jump quickly to number 8. I've been informed there's some it's a very quick item and there's some staff waiting around for that, so we're going to handle number 8 very quickly. It was originally a consent item, but the Councilmember Huizar wanted an amendment to it, so we can have staff on that item come forward quickly. It's a street vacation, but there is an amendment.
Then item number 8 is a Bureau of Engineering report relative to the vacation of 12th Street between Soto Street and Rio Vista Avenue.
Okay, and I mean, I can just read the amendment that's been requested by the council member from District 14 is, and apparently has been agreed by, and you can confirm that I'm saying the right thing here, has been agreed to by the developer or the person requesting, is to deposit $200,000 into the Council District 14 Affordable Housing Account for the Council District 14 Public Benefits Trust Fund number 57L-14 as a condition of this street vacation. That would be recommendation 16. Is there anything from BOE that we need to know or staff on this item? No? Okay. Without objection then, it'll be ordered approved as amended on that number 16. Okay, that brings us then to item number 4.
Item number 4 is a report from the Los Angeles Department of Transportation relative to an update of the performance of green-colored pavement marking materials for bicycle lanes. And this one was also referred to the Transportation as well as the Arts, Entertainment, Parks, and Rivers Committees.
Are we waiting for someone for 4? You know, I'm sorry. Apparently we're waiting for someone from 4, so we're going to jump to 5 next. Some people from the Film Commission are apparently on their way over for number 4. So out of courtesy, we will wait as long as we can for them, and we'll move directly to number 5. I apologize for bringing you up early. So item number 5 then, if you could read that one into the record.
Item number 5 is a motion from council members Krikorian, Blumenfield, and Martinez relative to assessing brewery charges based on the size of brewery operations and the amount of wastewater discharge.
And we have a number of public comment cards on this item, so we're going to take those up first, and then we will hear from staff from LA Sanitation. So if I could have Ms. Hoffman come on up, followed by Brian Olson, followed by Brian Hand. Ms. Hoffman, welcome. Good to see you.
Thank you for having me here today. We appreciate that this committee is looking at the motion regarding the wastewater discharge fees and craft breweries within the city of Los Angeles. As you know, this is an emerging industry in the San Fernando Valley and in all regions of LA. Microbreweries, who we are now calling independent brewers, are popular for their unique, locally made brews, and the industry has boosted local economies through creating relationships with residents and attracting tourism. The majority of Americans live within 10 miles of a craft brewer, according to the Brewers Association. In the San Fernando Valley, we have several microbreweries that fall within the city of Los Angeles boundaries. McLeod is open with a production brewery and full tasting room, while Celador, Handbrewed Beer, and 818 are both production breweries without a tasting room at this time, and both are in the CUP process to be permitted to have a tasting room as well. Water discharge fees are based on category of business, so a brewery is a brewery is a brewery. It doesn't matter if you're Anheuser-Busch or if you're 818. The fee is the same because of the type of industry, but if you look at the disparity, you can really see it. It doesn't take long to go into 818 and
You can finish your thought.
and crane your neck and see all their materials. But at Anheuser-Busch, you need to take a golf cart around to actually do the inspection. We've done a bit of research, and we know that we are not competitive with neighboring cities, and so this motion will make us more competitive. So by amending the inspection fees, so they're not based on an industry to another fee schedule, we can move Los Angeles forward in helping their industry grow within our city, encourage entrepreneurship, create jobs, and boost our local economy.
Thank you very much. And it should be noted she's with, Ms. Hoffman's with the Greater San Fernando Valley Chamber. I don't think we said that at the beginning. So, great, thank you. And then we have Mr. Olson, followed by Mr. Hand.
Hello, good afternoon. 818 Brewing was started by my cousin Derek Olson and myself, Brian Olson, in October 2014. We're from LA, we opened in LA, and we want to stay and grow in LA. The downside of owning a business in a large city is that some regulations have an umbrella effect on an entire industry. The city's reaction time to adapt or change can be a barrier to entry or prevent growth from up-and-coming segments of an industry. 818 Brewing is on pace to produce 250 barrels of beer this year. Just for reference, 15,000 barrels of beer or less defines a microbrewery. Production of up to 6 million barrels per year keeps you in the craft segment. All of our expenses we pay to be in business that goes to government fees and taxes is about 12%. The water discharge fee is 4% of that. Just to compare numbers, our insurance is 4%, our utilities is 8%, our delivery car is 1.4%. The 4% we're talking about today is the paper cut slices that add up and end up killing and limiting the growth of small local business.
Thank you. Next, Mr. Hand, followed by Ms. Lopez.
Hi, good day. I'm with Handbrewed Beer. We're in Chatsworth, as we all know, still part of the city of Los Angeles, and what we've come to find is that a lot of the fees that come up against us, and as Nancy mentioned, the one-size-fits-all approach has just kind of left us looking towards other cities that on a weekly basis we get solicitations from local people in their government or even just realtors who are working on their behalf. Where even cities like Bellflower were options to pay for a lot of these fees or expedite or even just outright remove to get this new business in here. The joke amongst us is that we all should have listened to our wives and not stayed in Los Angeles, but we are from there. We are from Chatsworth, so we would love to make sure that we keep growing and promoting that area because we know it needs this kind of revitalization, and it's kind of like a wasteland out there. You look at places like San Diego, quarter of the population and triple to, if not more, the amount of breweries, and they're out there welcoming. So we welcome any kind of changes that would make it a little bit more competitive to stay within city limits. Thank you.
Thank you. So next is Ms. Lopez, followed by Mr. O'Malley.
Good afternoon. I'm Frances Lopez, the Executive Director of the Los Angeles County Brewers Guild. We're the 501c6 nonprofit trade organization that represents roughly 69 craft breweries within LA County. I wanted to echo the sentiments put forth by my constituents regarding the motion to enhance the city's current structure for water discharge fees. From the Guild's nonprofit standpoint, approving this motion not only supports our existing businesses, but also makes our city an attractive base for potential growth. 9 years ago, there were only 5 craft breweries in LA County. We've grown to 69 with 20 additional businesses in planning with 10
10 businesses who have not yet chosen a city to find their home. Considering the estimated $72 million direct economic impact of the craft industry, we can assert that small and independent craft is a viable and vibrant business model that contributes greatly to our city's rich cultural landscape. We implore you to consider this motion to support our brewers and to think about the great opportunity for our industry to flourish in Los Angeles. We aim to bring manufacturing jobs, taxes, hospitality, and a world-class beer culture to our communities, and every small break for our brewers can have a lasting impact on their long-term business plans. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. O'Malley, followed by Jennifer Febre. Mr. O'Malley here? Kevin O'Malley? Okay. Mr. O'Malley is not here, so Ms. Febre is next, followed by Kevin Osborne.
Good afternoon. I'm Jennifer Febre, and I opened with my husband McLeod Ale Brewing Company in Van Nuys in 2014. And I just wanted to go over a couple of points here. There are several points in our industry where smaller breweries are given smaller fees because the whole industry knows that, it's hard to get a brewery started and we're struggling. We have a lot of fees. So, for example, the TTB, which is the Tax and Trade Bureau, the federal agency, has reduced taxes for smaller breweries based on how much we brew. Also, the Brewers Association, which is a national association, charges per how much we brew. Also, the California Craft Brewers Association has reduced fees based on how much you brew. And I do believe that utilities and fees should be based on your usage and, your impact on the community, and not just because you're a brewery. I'm sure those regulations came about when all the breweries were really huge, and they really was not a small craft beer industry. So fairness, that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. And our last speaker is Mr. Kevin Osborne. Welcome.
Hello, thanks so much for meeting with us and having us today. My name is Kevin Osborne, and my wife and I own a small brewery in North Hills called Celador Ales. We're really small, just the two of us operating it by ourselves for the last 2 years. And these fees for the inspections are really burdensome on our business. It's about 3 times as much as our annual water fee for these fees. And I know that lots of other small businesses that would potentially be opening up in LA, reasons like this are reasons they go to other cities that are easier to small businesses. So I hope that they can update the laws for this. Thanks.
Thank you very much. So next, that concludes the public speakers on this. I'd like to invite Sam Amir and Marilita Alvarez from LA Sanitation. If you could provide an overview of the item.
Good afternoon, Sam Amir. Excuse me, LA Sanitation. The Bureau and Industrial Waste Management Division has nearly completed a report. It's not been released yet. The report essentially looks at the councilman motion to distinguish between larger breweries and the smaller breweries. And it's true that they're all being classified currently in the same category. So a large-scale study has been completed. We are not ready to release the report yet, but there are recommendations that would address the concern to essentially subclassify breweries, or microbreweries as a subclassification, with reduced fees. And the magnitude of reduction is essentially will be a function of the workload that is exerted on the staff in inspecting, monitoring, sampling, and essentially maintaining these breweries in the system. There are about 19 we have identified, and we have looked at their operations, the volume of wastewater discharge per day, and all that. And we're looking, there are 2 types of fees that could be allocated. One is what we call inspection and control, just to have them in the system. And the other one is a wastewater treatment and removal cost, which may or may not apply to these smaller discharges in the future again. And we will be undertaking a study to determine if such fees will be applicable in the future. As of right now, we are in concurrence that there should be a reduced fee structure, fee level. And once the report is ready and gone through the management review, it will be presented.
Any additional opening comments, or should we just go to questions? That's great. So If a new subclass is created for small batch breweries with respect to the INC, what will the impact be on the cost recovery aspect of the fee?
Again, as you know, it's a mandate, state and federal mandate for the city of LA to recover all of its costs, operational costs. And this is a revenue neutral operation, so to answer your question, considering that it's a very small number of permittees, facilities, and the potential reduction will be about $1,000 per facility per year. So about $20,000 a year reduction in quote-unquote revenue, but then it should be offset by reduced cost of operations.
So it's not going to have a significant, that's not going to be a problem essentially.
We don't expect that it would be.
So what I'm assuming, what I'm hoping, and what I wanted to hear, so that's very positive. And have you guys done outreach to the small batch breweries within LA?
What we should also add is that that's only one component of this process. The other, more important, I think, attempt will be to work with the industry to provide information, pollution prevention style type of assistance to reduce, reuse, recycle what's possible, and help them reduce the volume of discharge and the strength levels, so the district wouldn't be subject to the fees that we just talked about.
Colleagues, Mr. Rue.
I just want to thank the ad hoc committee for jobs and Councilman Krikorian, Blumenfield, and Martinez for bringing this motion. I am a big fan of microbreweries. Whenever I get a chance to have locally brewed microbreweries, that's the first thing I ask whenever I go to a restaurant or an establishment, to see if there's any local brew on tap. So, I mean, I think this is great. This is job creation. This is helping small business. This is an all-around win. And I know you guys are I know the ad hoc committee is working on a various jobs package, and I think this is a no-brainer. And this is microbreweries is something that I'm very, very supportive of, irrespective. So thank you for bringing this motion, and I'm happy to vote on this today.
Any other questions, Mrs. Martinez?
The only question I had was in regards to the study. I know it hasn't been released yet, but what's your deadline? When are you going to release it so it can?
It's frankly ready. It's just that.
Say that again.
It is practically done, ready. Our bureau management hasn't had a chance to review it.
So once it's done, it'll come back to this committee or go to council?
I'm not sure of the process itself, but I expect within the next few days, early mid next week, this report will be finalized. So I'm not sure how it would percolate up to the council level.
All right, thanks.
Seeing no additional questions, I think we all like this idea of moving us forward, doing something for our local breweries. They're an engine for economic growth in our areas. They're a source of local pride, not to mention a tasty treat. So with that, I'm going to move that we approve this motion. And seeing no objections, so ordered. Mr. Espinosa, what else is on the, I know we have 4, I think, is that the last item now? Okay. They're not here, okay. So we'll move to item number 4. Mr. Espinosa, would you read that into the record?
Item number 4 is a report from the Los Angeles Department of Transportation relative to an update of the performance of green-colored pavement marking materials for bicycle lanes.
Great. This is something, I introduced this motion back in July of 2016. I'm really excited that we're finally at a consensus with regard to the color of the bike lane, which colleagues may seem like a small thing.
No, it's not. It's a big deal.
But it's taken a lot of work in getting the industry together and dealing with the federal regulations. I know more about this now than I ever imagined. A color it's not just a color of a paint chip, it's luminosity, hue, all these different things, and the fact that we're able to come to an agreement and that'll keep LA as film friendly, but also keep our bikers safe is really positive. So, Tim, I don't want to steal your thunder. I might have stolen a little bit of it, but I couldn't help myself. So, please.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Tim Framo. I'm an engineer with the Department of Transportation. And I'm here just to provide a brief verbal update to the green material and bike lanes written report that was submitted back in June of this year. That report does outline the consensus that came about from continued collaboration between Department of Transportation, representatives from council offices, and the film industry in order to come to a consensus on the particular shade of green to be used in bicycle lanes. It's a tool that's really important to us, and we also wanted to be very mindful and careful about how it affects filming and making sure that that's film friendly. And so we did come to consensus on that shade. And since then, there was some discussion in the report about the specific material, the manufacturer. At the time, the material that we had been looking at was a little bit challenging for us because it does require a long period of time to install and a drying time. And so the report did mention that that was a challenge in addition to the fact that the material that we typically use on roadways has a reflectivity element to it that makes it, I guess, shiny is the word, and that was a concern to the film industry representatives. And so since that report, we've been exploring other materials from other vendors using the exact same shade of green. And we did find a material that appeared to be very promising. So we installed it in the field, and then we convened a meeting with representatives from the film industry, and they had a favorable response to that material. In fact, they seemed to prefer it over the other material, given that it doesn't have any reflective sort of component to it. And so we haven't installed anything since that report. We do have a few projects in the works, and we're continuing to follow the protocol in that report in terms of notification and collaboration. And we are looking at this new material as a candidate for the next project to implement green. Happy to answer any questions.
Great. And just to clarify, the EnduraBlend color, it's not installed in all bicycle lanes. Please explain, how you're deciding which lanes to install it on.
Sure. So in terms of where we install it, we are prioritizing locations that are either on the high injury network or have a pattern of collisions where we want to add a conspicuity to areas where bicyclists negotiate their path of travel with motorists or buses. And so we're not talking about a green carpet. We're talking about a very specific targeted sections within a section of roadway with bike lanes that has already been identified as a street that has a collision history that needs attention. And so we have a set of priority locations based on that criteria.
Great. And is there a cost difference between the material that was previously used and the newly selected EnduraBlend?
This material appears to be a little bit less expensive. Both the EnduraBlend and this material were reasonably priced, but the other material that we use for regular striping, which has the reflective feature, is typically more expensive. So this is promising in that we can save some money at the same time.
That's an added bonus we didn't think of in this process. And but it does say that the EnduraBlend currently just has to be installed by contractors. Is that does that affect the cost of handling? Is that something? Can we develop that expertise to install it? Should we develop that expertise, or is it not worth the effort?
It's something we can explore. This new material that we're looking at doing is in the same boat. It requires a contractor to install, but it's something that I think that's something we could explore, is allowing our crews to install it to make it more efficient for us.
Colleagues, any questions or comments? Ms. Rodriguez?
No, I think it's great that we're able to come to some consensus on this. I know it was a challenge for the filming industry, but it's also clearly something that's very important to assure bicycle safety and making sure, I have parts in my district where we have individuals on a high injury network that, we've lost several lives, and the intent of all of this is to assure that we don't have any, that we don't lose anybody else in this process. So balancing all of this, I think, is a great win for us all. Thank you.
Initial comments? They're not showing, so we waited as long as we could. The Film LA folks wanted to be here, but they're 100%. They're in support. So great. No, this is great. It's also to add to what you're saying. What's great about this is we finally align our incentives. We're incentivizing people to film in LA, and then this was a disincentive, and so now we're rowing in the same direction as a city with our dual goals of safety and wanting to encourage the jobs in the film industry in our area. So it's a win-win. Thank you. You guys did great work. Without objection, actually on this, I guess we note and file this report. We'll note and file it. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Mr. Espinosa, are there any other items? I know we have public comment.
No, Mr. Chair.
No. Okay. So moving then to public comment. We have Mr. Herman, but he has been ejected, Ms. Autry, but she has been ejected. And we have Mr. Red Chief, who is here. The microphone is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. I've been watching you and I've been regulating the meeting. Be really careful about how you eject people. I was in conferences with Dean Pregerson for 2 years about decorum. And sometimes the best thing is to do is let them have their 2 minutes and not say anything. They're kind of outlandish or whatever, but the best thing is only 2 minutes. And in conference with a federal judge who's probably my godfather and who probably really loves me a lot, and I really listen to him, the best thing you can do sometimes is nothing. And just let them go on for their 2 minutes. After their 2 minutes, if you have any problems, you see me, and I'll correct the problem for you. But I just want to give you one warning. Please don't be like Barry Sanders and get a lawsuit, that the city end up paying a whole lot of money. Sometimes it's better, whether they're on topic or not. 2 minutes is not a long time. Thank you, and thank you for listening to me.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chief. And we also have a comment from Anna C. C, welcome, and thank you for your patience.
Good afternoon. My name is Ana Maria Camacho.
Could you start her time again? If you could pull the mic down so we can hear. Thank you.
I live in Tarzana, bordered with Reseda, and I've been living in the valley for about 30 years, and I'm in Bow Brownsfield District. I am here today because I want the Public Works Committee to continue to make San Fernando Valley a better and safer place to live in Reseda and Van Nuys area, because it's the place I've been living for so many years and my kids grow up there. As an Airbnb host, I recommend my guests to small businesses because I'm very close to Reseda and I have a lot of shops, not only coffee shops, restaurants, so I always recommend them. Even I was just commented, two of my guests, they have flat tires, and I recommend it to the shops as well, where we are close. So, like myself, the host, we've been collecting from our guests over $40 million since August 2016. So I have the revenue can help improving our city, because I have 3 boys, they were raised in Reseda, and I love the improving, because before it was so bad, the drugs in Reseda area, that now is getting better. So that's what I'm coming here to applause what they're doing better, but continue to help us because of the park, Reseda, and the kids can go there, have a grandchildren. So I love my kids to enjoy the area.
Great. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Chair Espinosa, is there anything else on the agenda?
No, Mr. Chair.
That concludes this meeting. Thank you.